One of these is on the outside, and I don't know which. I make a lot of really small crochet because it's fun. I really don't venture to the like jumbo kind of size crochet very often. To be honest, I don't find the jumbos sell very well because they are obviously quite pricey because they're big, and this yarn is expensive. Oh, like it's not actually. It's $10 for this thing. It's expensive, but it's like well priced for what you're doing. But I generally don't find the big crochet that worth it, and it's also a lot harder to do. But because I make micro crochet keyrings and earrings and flowers, I do find it quite exciting to jump on the other end of the scale and see how a pattern looks in the jumbo yarn. So today I'm going to take this Loops and Threads Sweet Snuggles yarn, and I'm going to make a bunch of possums with the same pattern, and we're gonna see them. We're gonna gradually get smaller with each time. We're gonna see how they look. The pattern is by Haru Crochets, and I love this pattern. I make it all the time. This particular possum, I am using an 8mm crochet hook. I think I used to use 9mm with this one, but I think 8 works a little bit better for it to be tighter because I do like my crochet to be tight. Lost my scissors for a second there. I have no idea really how big this is going to come out. Never made any of the plushies by Haru Crochets in this yarn, so it's going to be an adventure, but I've made it in all the other yarns I'm going to use. So this one's the one that's like most intriguing to me, and we're going to work our way down to micro crochet. So if you want to see how tiny these are going to get, stick around, I guess. I'm gonna sew the eyes on off camera because I don't want to do that on camera. I feel like it's gonna annoy me, be a little bit frustrating. I might have to do it a few times. I don't really want to do that on camera. But that is a big possum. I have no idea what I would price this at because, like I said, the yarn is more expensive, which is fair enough because it's big. Haven't figured out pricing. I'll have a big think about it, but it's going to be a lot bigger than my tiniest one. Next one I'm going to make is going to be using Premier Basic Chanel yarn. Okay, let's make the basics yarn one. Where should I put this? I really need a table here, and I say that a lot, but still got one. I am using a 4.5mm crochet hook and Premier Basic Chanel yarn. It is my favourite yarn to use for my small plushies because it just works up as a really good size, and I feel like it's a slightly more durable yarn than Chanel yarns. I will be using 12mm safety eyes, I think. I used to use 10, but I think 12 is a little bit more appropriate for this yarn because it is kind of chunky. It's kind of just my preference. 24mm crochet hook and puffy chunky to make a small opossum. I'm using 10mm safety eyes with this instead of 12. This one will come out reasonably, like a reasonable amount smaller than the other one, even though there's only a 0.5mm difference in the hook size. I don't make this one all that often because I think it comes out like just a little bit too small for what I want. But if I don't have any of the basics Chanel yarn in grey, I will make this, like use this yarn instead. It is really cute. It's just like a little bit smaller, and where I do like all my small plushies as one price, people are like, oh, even the small ones or whatever, which is valid. Like purely because it's the same pattern and the yarn is like very similar priced. They keep it all the same, and it makes everyone's life easier if there's just a blanket amount. But I understand why it causes a little bit of confusion. Like I would say the puffy chunky plushies and the basics Chanel ones this size take the same amount of time, work. They're just a different size and it's like minimal difference in stuffing, so it's like not too crazy. It's not worth really pricing these ones different. Once you get up to like the medium plushies I make, that size, it then kind of needs to be priced a little bit different because you start using a lot more of the basics one and a lot more stuff in it and everything, and it's just harder to work with for a bigger plushie. These are not too bad, so I just keep them the same. I then want to make a fluffy opossum and then an acrylic one, and then we'll get on to the micro one, which is exciting. I've lost count, I don't know where I'm at. The micro one is by far the best seller. I make it into keyring. She sell a few of them per market. Tend to run out. That's why it's like snagging. Okay. Yeah, I tend to run out at markets, which is a great problem to have. So yes, I will be making 6 unless I somehow think of another yarn to use. Which I don't think I will. I'm very excited to see the difference between the big one and the micro one. It's gonna be quite different. I'm wondering if I should weigh them and be like, let you know the difference in size as well. I do have an affiliate link for Puffy, no, well, yeah, I guess, but for the Premier Yarns, any Premier Yarns yarn, I have an affiliate link that's in my description. If you want to shop, it would be great if you could click through that because I get a 10% commission at no cost to you, like no extra cost. I don't know if it gives a discount to you, but maybe it will, I don't know. But either way I get 10% commission, which is pretty cool. And I use their yarns all the time. I'm actually overdue an order of their basics range, but they're releasing more new puffy chunkies soon. So I kind of want to hold off and wait until they release the new colours because I know I'm going to want to place an order. But there's also certain plushies I really want to make that I just don't have the yarn for yet because I haven't ordered in a while. Although I have so many yarn hauls to post, I'm not very good at remembering to deal with them and post them. Yeah, if you want to order using that link, it's in the description, and I mean, it would just be cool, pretty much. fluffy possum was made using the same yarn as the puffy chunky one. For some reason I just find not the same yarn at all, same supplies. I'm now making the acrylic yarn one, which I'm using a 3mm crochet hook, acrylic yarn, which is probably worst in weight, and I think I'm going to use the 10mm safety eyes again. Here my cat. Button! Button! Come here! Come on! Hi! Come here! Come say hi! You were being noisy. Say hello. I'm beautiful. You grab your little chin. Okay, back to the possum. I don't know what I was saying, but I'm making a little possum. And then I have just got the micro one to make, and I need to sort the eyes on the big possum. I haven't decided what I'm gonna do. I don't know whether I want to micro crochet some eyes and sew them on, or just like embroider some eyes on. I haven't decided, so I guess we'll see. I kind of want to micro crochet them, but I don't know if it's well. onto the micro crochet possum. I'm now onto the micro crochet possum. I did start making this last week and I didn't finish it. I intended on finishing it and marking it, and for whatever reason it just didn't happen. I think my hands were cold, so I just didn't really crochet that much. I believe I'm on round 5. I am using a 0.9mm crochet hook and like crochet thread. I like size 10. I will use size 3. It's not that much different, to be fair. I'm not using safety eyes because it's a little bit too small. I'll just sew them on at the end before I sew the end up. I'm making it in a dark grey because dark grey ones seem to be more popular, and I believe I have one in a light grey in my bag, ready for Friday's market. So we're in a dark grey today. I don't know if I finished that round correctly. I don't think I did. I'll fix it in a minute. These are my favourite version of the possums. I make them into little cubes. Decided just to embroider the eyes on rather than make any micro crochet eyes, and to be honest I think it looks better that way because it's not the most complicated plushie in the world. I just wasn't sure how it was gonna look, if it was gonna look really silly or not, but yeah, I think it's come out okay. That means that all 6 of them are ready to complete. I think we're gonna start with the biggest and work our way down to the smallest. Just like making them, I guess. Okay, so the biggest one using the Sweet Snuggles yarn is this one. And then the Premier Basic Chanel one is here. We have Puffy Chunky. And then we have the fluffy Little Bunny yarn. And then the acrylic one. And then the tiny little micro one. Let's do a side by side of the biggest versus the smallest. Look, that's quite funny. That is like smaller than an ear, about the size of a foot, which is quite funny. These will be coming with me to market, so you can get the micro ones and the basics Chanel ones on my website. But if you would like to buy any of the other yarn ones, let me know, drop me a message or a comment and I'll make a listing for it. Still not sure how much I'm going to price this out, but the rest all have their standard pricing. Let me know what pattern / animal or whatever you want me to do this with next. I definitely have a bumblebee and a fox one coming up at some point, and I believe I have a pig and a bunny that I need to edit and post, but I really wanted to do this, so that's fun.